Hey guys, how's it going? This is BillyEatWorld, and today I want to talk to you about ammunition in Battlefield 4 and how accurately it's represented. Now, obviously Battlefield 4 isn't that realistic when it comes to gunplay and ammunition because even the smallest caliber bullet is capable of seriously injuring or killing someone in the real world. The reason I'm making this video is because and I'm sure many of you guys have wondered why, for example, the M82 sniper rifle kills in one shot and the 50 cal turret doesn't, considering they both fire the same round. Obviously, this has a lot to do with balancing because after all, we are talking about a video game here. What I'm going to try and discuss in this video is a few ways that I think DICE could balance different types of ammunition more accurately in future Battlefield games. I just want to point out though that I'm not an expert on firearms or ammunition, but I have grown up around guns and I've done a lot of research over the years into what I'm talking about in this video. But anyway, to start with, let's cover a few of the basics of small arms ammunition so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about. If you want to check what type of ammunition the different weapons use in Battlefield 4, you can find that info in the weapon stats in-game. So probably the most important thing that you need to understand is caliber. Caliber simply is the diameter of the bullet and not the diameter of the case. This is usually measured in either millimeters or thousandths of an inch. For example, 7.62mm, 9mm, or .388 or .45. The term 30 cal or 50 cal comes from the shortening of that imperial measurement. So for example, because the 308 Winchester round and the 303 British round are almost the same diameter, they're both referred to as 30 caliber rounds. Sometimes these measurements are interchangeable. For example, a 308 Winchester round and a 7.62 by 51mm NATO round are almost identical. The reason I mention this is because I've heard some BF4 YouTubers talk about 308 rounds as if they're something different and more powerful, but the truth is that they aren't. Sometimes the case length is also included in the name of the round, for example 7.62 by 51mm or 7.62 by 39mm. Both of these rounds are the same caliber, but the first round, which is used in most DMRs and sniper rifles, has a case length of 51mm, and the second round, which is used in the SKS, has a case length of 39mm. Now the case length is very important because a longer case can fit more propellant and more powder generally means a higher velocity. The velocity isn't completely dependent on the amount of powder though, because the weight of the bullet will determine how much powder it needs. A larger bullet will need much more powder to reach the same velocity as a smaller bullet will. The benefit of having a larger bullet is that it'll have more energy on target than a smaller bullet travelling at the same velocity, which means it'll hit harder at longer ranges. But just to clarify, pistol ammunition generally has shorter case lengths than rifle ammunition and therefore has less energy on target. Basically, this means that a 45 ACP round shot from something like an M1911 won't hit quite as hard as a 5.56 round fired from an assault rifle. The actual damage that it does to a human target is dependent on more than just the velocity though. The design of the bullet is very important as well, and there's different rounds designed for anti-personnel or anti-vehicle roles. Also, I probably should just mention that generally the word Magnum means that the round has a longer case length, which is why the 44 Magnum does more damage than the 45 ACP. The trade-off of a longer case length though is more recoil, more weight, and more noise. So now that you have a basic idea of how the different types of ammunition work in Battlefield 4, how do I think that they can be more accurately represented in future games? Well, basically in the real world, military forces choose ammunition based on a number of different factors. Cost is a big issue, but that doesn't really affect us in-game, so I'll leave that one out. Damage is another tricky one because it's hard to balance semi-automatic weapons with automatic weapons. In the real world, one bullet will generally put someone out of action and multiple hits certainly will, so stopping power isn't really a huge factor like it is in the game. This is why progressively over the last 50 years, weapon calibers have been getting smaller in armed forces around the world. As long as damage models make relative sense and the game is balanced, I'm pretty much fine with that. The two things that I think could be changed in-game are the effect different rounds have on weight, recoil, and penetration. A 7.62 round fired by a Scar H weighs a lot more than the 5.56 round fired by an M16A4, so I think it makes sense that soldiers shouldn't be able to carry as much ammo using these larger caliber weapons. This sort of already is the case with the Scar because it has less ammo in each magazine, but it definitely is unrealistic that someone could carry an M60 with 200 round boxes filled with 7.62 ammo. Also, I think it wouldn't be a bad idea either if weapon and ammo weight had a noticeable difference on mobility. This would definitely make the PDWs a more viable option for run and gun gameplay. Now the other point that I thought could be addressed somehow in-game is the ability of different rounds to penetrate cover. Currently, the only non-vehicle small arms that can damage vehicles are the 50 cal sniper rifles and the 50 cal turrets. This sort of makes sense because 50 caliber rounds are designed for an anti-materiel role, and in the real world can make short work of light-skinned vehicles like Humvees. Now that being said though, a 7.62 round, a 5.56 and even some of the larger pistol rounds would still happily punch through a car. A 30 cal machine gun like the M240B or the M60 would even happily chew a massive hole in a brick wall if you fired enough rounds at it. The ability of a 30 cal round to damage vehicles is already depicted in-game by the miniguns found on transport helicopters and attack boats, so I think being able to penetrate cover in vehicles with larger caliber rounds from any weapon would be a great addition to the game, but obviously would need to scale depending on the weapon and the round being fired. Now to balance all of this out, I think it would make sense for larger caliber rounds to have more recoil than they currently do. It's unrealistic that anyone in the real world could accurately mag dump a Scar H from a standing position like you can in Battlefield 4. It's hard enough to accurately fire an AK-47 which has a less powerful round, and it's the reason why many 7.62 battle rifles like the FNFAL and the M14 started their life with a fully automatic mode and were modified by many countries to be semi-automatic only. Also, as much as Rambo would like you to think otherwise, it's really not possible to fire an M60 accurately from the hip either. Nor is it possible to fire hundreds of rounds continuously from an air-cooled LMG without doing serious damage to the weapon. I think upping the damage of larger rounds would be viable if they made these guns harder to control from a standing position and possibly even introduced an overheating point. It'd certainly encourage more people to make use of the bipod, which is already pretty balanced by the fact that you aren't able to move. And overheating would reduce the ability of support players to completely lock down hallways like they currently can in maps like Metro. But anyway, I'm keen to hear what you guys think of these ideas. I really don't think it would be unrealistic to make these changes if DICE added in a few things to balance them out. But then, I'm someone who likes tactical shooters, and I know not every Battlefield player thinks like me. So would you prefer Battlefield to become more of a realistic tactical shooter like Arma, or would you prefer to see it edge more towards like the COD side of things? Let me know what you think in the comment section below because I'd love to hear from you. And as always, if you like what you see, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. If you haven't already, please check out all my other Battlefield 4 videos. I've got them all linked in the playlist in the description below. And if you have any other suggestions for weapons or loadouts that you'd like to see in upcoming videos on this channel, then feel free to let me know in the comment section below or send me a tweet on Twitter at BillyEatWorld. But until next time guys, see you later and have a good one.